The EP3. Remember this? Let me give you a recap. All right, welcome to part 3 of the EP3 K24 build with the 5 lug. The airbox doesn't fit, so we're going to be building an intake for it to make it work. That is it. Is it going to settle?
Looks like it's got a little settling.
Yeah, a little settling in the back.
Perfect. All right, so let's see. The official time of the EP3 moving is 11:49. The gas pedal works. All right, so we got the EP3 on the dyno. Is at 25 to 3,000 RPM. So that's what the exhaust is worth. That's dropping the exhaust through the Jackson header. He has a new header. We're going to build a 3-inch exhaust, make some more power, and an intake, and then of course retune it, see if we can make some power back. Well, we're not just going for max power, we're going for quiet too. Jeff wants more power, but of course, being a daily and being a fun car, you don't want this thing droning and making all kinds of racket. So we're going to do a 3-inch with the biggest resonator that we can fit and a twin loop muffler, so try and keep the noise down and keep the power up.
Alright, we're under the EP3. This exhaust is going to get replaced, and I know there's one of you out there that keeps messaging trying to get this exhaust, and you thought it was over. Well, if you still want it, message us on Instagram and we'll get you set up. But this is going to be replaced with full 3-inch. We've got a real big resonator to put in there. We've got a muffler to put here. We'll show you in a little bit.
Alright, so this is the exhaust removed. What's interesting is the axle back has a slightly larger diameter pipe. This isn't the most accurate way of measuring it, but it's just kind of giving you a visual. About 2 1/8. I mean, it's kind of small for a K series, obviously, but look at the main section right here. I mean, look at that. What are we? I'd say just a hair over 1.5 inches. All right, so this is the header change. Now remember, the header that we put on this car, this is a Jackson Racing header. Now it's obviously much better than the factory little cast short runner deal, but you can see the tubes, it steps up, it steps twice over here. Actually, it steps 3 times. So this is the outlet size. I'll get a measure of that in a minute. This is the PLM swap header. This one is obviously much larger diameter. This is supposed to work with the K24 in this car, so we'll find out in a minute. Just want to show you it side by side, but we'll confirm that it fits. And I mean, any of you guys that have dealt with header building, this header was like 350 bucks shipped, which is just crazy. If you're involved in this stuff, you know how much time and effort goes into it. Of course, it's made overseas. Basically what I'm getting at, it's a heck of a deal. And if it makes power, which it's supposed to, it's just a win-win. So let's get a side-by-side comparison just as a visual. You can see the diameter coming out of the flange. It's much larger on the PLM, and it steps up quite a bit larger than this. Let me get my calipers. We'll do a side-by-side comparison. All right, so looking at this, we are at 41 millimeters on the primary directly out of the flange. This is on the Jackson header. We're at 45 millimeters on the PLM. This is obviously directly out of the flange. Now it steps up again over here. This is still under 45. This is 44 to the secondary. Over here we are at 50. So it's quite a bit bigger when it comes to each runner. Of course, we've got 4 runners here. This header we had to modify to make it fit on the K24. It does work. It's better than the factory manifold. Contact us if this is something you're interested in. We did modify this so it does fit, it does work. I'll forward your information to Jeff if you want to buy this. This would make your life easier if you are doing a K24 in your car, and he'll make you a deal on that, I'm sure. All right, so the outlet is confirmed 54 millimeters. This is the gasket that came off it, and just as a quick glance, it isn't going to fit the PLM header it's quite a bit larger. Let's get an idea on the outlet size. Right at 62 millimeters. So everything about this header is bigger, so we should get some airflow from that. Just give you the idea, the S2000 gasket fits that. It didn't come with a gasket, so go ahead and order one of those ahead of time if you do buy this header, because it doesn't come with it. Alright, so I can confirm the header doesn't fit. You see right there, let me get a better angle. Right there, you see the header sits right on the sway bar, and I mean, when you pull it, you can pull it away from it, but back there it's on the sway bar. So what we're going to do is take those bolts out, see if we can adjust the header on those slips, see if we can get some clearance, and if we can, we'll weld the header where it needs to be. So let's try that and I'll report back. Alright, so with the bolts out, we're going to see if it'll flex any. Just the runners are bending. Alright, so I take it back. There's a reason why it's 350 bucks. It doesn't fit. Probably fits our fixture like 100 headers ago. Alright, so let's start doing a little bit of modifying. Alright, so headers coming out for the third time. We tried loosening these, see if we can get a little bit of wiggle room on here, but basically it hits the sway bar right here, it rubs. So it's either you get a hammer and you whack a big dent in there, or we adjust the header to move it away. We're going to do the latter of the two. So what we're going to do here, this is our contact point, this is where the sway bar is hidden. We only need maybe 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch gap. So rather than rebuilding the whole header, what we're going to do is put a cut right here in the bottom, so we can pull this down and close up that gap, try and give us a good 3/8 of an inch gap here. Then we can weld that tube. So what we're going to do is cut the bottom of the tube about 3/4 of the way through, give us a little bit of flex on there. So we'll try that, see if that works. Alright, so that has give us the room we are looking for. So that's give us a good 1/2 inch. Now we're running half sport mounts on this, so we're not going to have a lot of flex, but if this was rubber mounts, you would need as much room as you could possibly get, because the engine is going to flex. So that is good. We can take that off now and weld it up for good. Alright, so the header is back on, and as you see, we've got clearance everywhere. And rather than using the bolt here, that's all we're doing is just a small weld. This expands in here and it does a pretty good job sealing, but like I said, those bolts are going to fall out. Same up there. But as you see, got room above the sway bar, got a full hand around here, we're good to go. Alright, so we're looking at the opening here, kind of keeping this in the back of our mind while we're working on the header. And these are our typical LHT tips that we like to use. It's the slash cut, it's got the smaller diameter. I talked about this before. Well, this just looks too small in there. It's got such a wide pocket. So let me show you a tip that I like the look of. Right here, this is like an 06 SI tip. It's wider, it's got the oval look, and it's smaller on the inside, so you don't get that megaphone kind of effect. It doesn't look bad in there, but the problem is the inlet is only 2 1/4. We're going 3 inch. We don't want to downsize right at the end, it'll cause a restriction. But I kind of like that oval look, so let me show you what I came up with. Alright, so I showed this tip on a past episode. It had like a slash this way. It was something that we bought and it didn't work. Well, the oval I like, I just actually recut this so it's straight this way, and it's a 3 inch in, but that megaphone that I talked about by actually amplifying the noise, I'm trying to stay away from that. So what I did is I cut a piece of tube and I pressed it in there. It doesn't fit in this end, it fits from this end. I pressed it in, and the idea is once this all goes black, I'm hoping this will disappear. Then you're going to have the look of this, but that way we're a full 3 inch and our output is 3 inch. It hopefully doesn't have that megaphone effect because the pipe is almost right to the end. So we're trying to keep it quiet, trying to make it look right without restricting the power. Okay, so we have the biggest resonator that we can fit in here. It's a 3 inch in and out, and the body is a 6 inch diameter, so it's actually a little larger than the factory, but a little bit longer also. We're trying to make as much sound suppression as we can. Using Magnaflow, it's one of our favorite brands because it's stainless all the way through. You don't worry about it rusting out on the middle. a lot of mufflers are actually using a mild steel core and they rust from the inside out, even though the can looks nice and shiny and you feel like it's going to hold up the dome. So we're building this. We're going to 3-inch pipe right off here. I'm going to put a 3-inch next to this here in a second, just so you can get the idea of the difference. It's pretty amazing. That's 3-inch. Look at that. There's my hand around here. I can't put my fingers together. That is huge difference. Look. And again, we're only talking maybe 15 to 20 horsepower, but this is what K-Series motors like. They love big exhaust. Problem with big exhaust is keeping them quiet, and that's one thing that we like, and that's one thing that Jeff stressed. I want to make the power, but I want to keep it quiet. So we're running the biggest resonator that we can. I showed you that already, and we're going to replace that with one of our twin loops. So now you can really see the difference in diameter. So we're doing it in a similar design. We're breaking it right there. We're putting a V-bend flange, so the axle back will be a separate piece. It does go over the lower control arm, so it will make it easier to take apart in the future if it needs to be worked on. But that looks huge, doesn't it? That is massive. All right, so up here, just a quick briefing. You remember we did this intake where a lot of people are commenting, hey, that's not the best intake, and this, we know that. This was this was the intake that we built, I think it was like 11:30 at night. We were trying to put this back together. It had an air box that was on this car, and we tried to utilize it when we did the K24. Of course, it wouldn't fit. So this was like a quickie, 11:30 at night, made it, put it on, just so we can get the car down the road, and of course it didn't perform very well. Well, this is a heat shield that Jeff made. He actually took the stock airbox lid, zip tied it around here just for a little deflection, and it actually worked pretty decent. This actually looks like his S2000 lid. That's actually interesting. So it actually worked and deflected some of the heat, but we're going to change this. We're going to utilize cold air effect. We're going to come out of here, make a bend down, go under. We're going to put the filter behind the headlight, but we're trying to keep the intake filter high rather than bringing the filter down and doing this. We're going to try and come behind the bumper and then bend up, so we're not going to worry about standing water, because that is always a concern in Florida. All right, so this is the intake. I just took it off. As you see, it's just a short ram, 3-inch. Put the air intake sensor right in that coupler, and this was an airbox lid that he had, that he used just to kind of guard the heat. It's actually quite functional. It's not the best, but I mean, it was something that he put together just so he can get the IATs down a little bit. It made a little bit more power. I don't know how much. We didn't dyno it, but the new intake will be a lot cooler than this. Let me get rid of my demo first. This is explaining why things didn't fit. Look at that, you're still on the board, Jeff.
Still up there.
You're still up there. It's a reminder us to do it.
We do some checks on that one. We got a couple of those things done.
Let's do that real quick. So first off, we have the header fit, the exhaust fit. The tune is the intake is underways. So we're having a quick guess of horsepower. And George said, what did you guess?
I said 215, but that was before you said 215. So.
Do you want to go higher or lower? You said it before me?
Yeah, I was at 214 then.
Alright, so let's do, well, you went first. If you want, you can have 215. So George is at 215. Jeff, what did you say?
217.
So do I do the Price is Right thing?
$1.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go,
1 horsepower.
I'm gonna go 1 horsepower. No, I'm not, because I gotta give us some. I'll go 219.
Nice.
Let's just see what we can do. Give me that filter. I'm going to need a better filter. So the filter is going to be placed behind here. What's cool is there's actually vents in there. Look at that. Let me get my flashlight down. Am I anywhere, George? Look at that. There's actually airflow all the way through there, as well as air can go around here. So this will almost be a true cold air intake, because it's actually going to get a lot of cool air effect from here. All right, so just to prevent some of the wiggle here, because it's running the rubber mounts and obviously the exhaust is quite a bit bigger, We just made this bracket here using a urethane bushing. We just picked up an existing thread and added a thread here. That way we can put our urethane bushing in there and we can run a tab over to the exhaust just to stop the side to side. You see, I mean, it takes a lot to do it, but here you can bang it against the frame. So if you do a real hard turn, hit a bump, it's going to hit the frame. We don't want that, so we'll add a tab here, put a nut and bolt through there. It'll secure the exhaust. Did a V-bend right here so it can be serviced. Already showed you that. We have the additional mount right here, stop the exhaust shaking around, because this is a pretty big resonator. I see there's not a lot of room for wiggle. You see we got about a finger all the way around it. We don't want this thing rattling, so we should be in good shape at this point. All right, intake is hooked up, IAT is hooked up, everything is situated. Let's go ahead and get our first start. See how loud or how quiet this is. Just rev it, George. That sounds good, doesn't it? That sounds good.
Yeah.
Do it again. Oh yeah, that's it. That's quite enough what it's gonna be. This whole time I'm crossing my fingers. Don't drone. Don't be raspy. Go ahead and rev it again and get a different perspective. Yeah, I like that. What do you think, Jeff? Is that good?
Ready for tune.
You're sitting there, fingers crossed. Don't suck. Don't sound awful. Okay, so we're bolted on the dyno. If you remember, the last time it did 182 on 157, and then when we dropped the exhaust, 205 and 164, and that was just like a quickie. Add 10% fuel in VTEC. As you see, the VTEC changeover is a little sketchy. So I'm basically going to take that file like I ran it the last time, add 10% fuel. Air fuel ratio was around 12.5, and then we'll fix this, we'll see, and tune from there. But that gives us basically a starting point with this exhaust. The exhaust should flow like an open header. Of course, the new header should flow quite a bit more, but let's go ahead and see. Wow, now that made a difference. Look at that. All right, so we just performed that test, and there, the number will come down. In fact, let me stand here and we'll do a run, and you can watch that number change as it goes through the RPMs. You ready, George?
Yep.
All right, hit it. This is the results. This is what it looks like. This was... All right, let's get some sound clips. I want to see what this 3-inch exhaust sounds like. I want to demonstrate how quiet it is too. It's amazingly quiet. Listen to that. Is that not amazing? That is fantastic. That's a long 3-inch resonator and the twin loop.